us here today. Once again, my name is Deanne Fisher. I'm the Director of Public Affairs and Customer Service with Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro. Welcome to everybody who's joining us Facebook Live, but we have a number of media in the room who will be asking questions today. I want to say I'm joined today by Rob Collett, who's our Vice President of Engineering and the Newfoundland and Labrador System Operator. We only have Rob here with us today because, as we all know by now, the power watch has been lifted. The system has good shape, and we have things settled out a little bit now. We've had a number of questions, mainly about our operations, how our assets performed, how we got Beta Spare back online, things like that. So we thought we'd just take the opportunity to speak to folks and let them know, give a status update. We were able to avoid any outages this past weekend, mainly to do with everybody's great help. So we wanted to get out here now and say thanks and let you know where we're to on the system. So how it will go is I'll turn it over to Rob. He's going to just go through a few things, and then I'll turn it over to media for questions. All right, over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Deanne. And good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for being here today. And I'm very pleased to announce that the power watch has been lifted as of this morning, as our supply issues have been resolved. This all started in terms of the good news on Saturday evening, when the ice on the penstocks in Beta Spare was removed. As we all know, the dive crews worked tirelessly through those frigid conditions, and as of Saturday evening, that issue was resolved. At that point, then, it became an exercise in monitoring the ice around those units as we slowly brought them all back online. As we described yesterday, there are 7 units at Beta Spare, 6 of which are now back in operation. So overnight, Saturday night, the 6 units were brought back online, and slowly we brought them up on, the power increased slowly as we monitored the ice both on the upside of the plant and on the downside of the plant. And once that was achieved, yesterday afternoon, we were able to release the plant and all those 6 units back for operation. With those 6 units back in operation, there are sufficient reserves on the system now to ensure that there were no power concerns from a supply standpoint, and the warning was lifted yesterday. With that warning lifted, it then became an issue. The issue then was ensuring the system stayed balanced as we brought customers back online. So the power watch remained in place last night, and through the night we monitored the system as things rebalanced, as customers came back online, and as of this morning, the system is stable. We carried through the substantial peak that we had this morning, and now the power watch has been lifted as well. I'm also pleased to announce that after the power warning, or as we stabilized the system and the power warning was lifted, we were able to actually supply and support Nova Scotia as well. Instead of importing power from Nova Scotia, we were actually able to export 100 megawatts in the other direction to support them through this as they had frigid temperatures as well. As we heard about the negative 31-degree wind chill in Halifax, we were able to help our neighbors as they helped us. This is another benefit of the maritime link and the links we have between the island and the mainland provinces. That's the status situation, and now I would have a long list of thank yous that those who helped get us through the situation and who helped ensure the reliable operation of the power system through this, and that all the supports were given. First and foremost, a significant thank you to the people of the province, the people who truly stepped up and responded. As we mentioned, the power warning was issued, the grid was very tight on resources, and those people stepped up in terms of reducing their demand and doing everything they could to support the situation. We appreciate this. It truly made a difference. So thank you so much for, even if you took small steps or big steps, everyone made a difference. So please be aware of that. Also, thank you for your patience. I know this was a very frustrating situation, a situation no one wants to deal with, a situation that people feel shouldn't have happened. And we were dealt a very difficult hand in this situation, and we were doing everything we could to ensure we rode through it as best we could. And we're very pleased that there were no outages, but I'm sure there was significant amounts of anxiety and uncertainty, and we appreciate those frustrations, and we certainly sympathize. I know it's exam week for students this week. I know that's hard on both students and parents. So we're glad to have the system back in a stable place this week for all of those individuals. So thank you very much to the people of the province. Thank you very much as well to the provincial government. They ensured that we were fully supported every step of the way. Premier Wakeham, Minister Parrott, they ensured that we were fully supported. Anything we needed, we knew they were there for us, and they ensured that all the supports were in place. Also, in terms of our Provincial Emergency Operations Center, should there have been a power emergency, or knowing there were divers in the water, people out in these frigid temperatures, ensuring reliable system operation, they were active and ready to support and jump in. Again, whatever we needed, they were there, and that having that kind of backup makes all the difference in situations like these. Special thank you as well to our colleagues at Newfoundland Power. They were with us every step of the way. My colleague Byron and the personnel there in their control center and who staff their facilities, working long nights again, making sure that the capacity was available and that we were ready to respond. Industrial partners. In addition to the customers in this province, we had a significant load reduction that happened with our industrial customers. For example, down in Long Harbour, Valley, they were able to reduce their load by more than half. The Brea facility in Come By Chance, they reduced their load significantly. Even the mines in the Bayford Peninsula were able to shut down entirely, doing their part to help the province. And all these pieces made a significant difference. Corner Brook Pulp and Paper provided us with electricity. That was certainly a support. At the refinery in Come By Chance, I mean, they have a full-time job distributing diesel around this province during a normal day. When we come along and need several million liters of fuel, they stepped up and ensured that we were supported there as well. So special thanks to all those people. And of course, in addition, there's smaller customers as well. There's the communities who made tough, difficult decisions like shut down rinks or had to cancel events and those kinds of things. We know Marble Mountain had to shut down as part of this. So there were some inconveniences, there were some challenges, but everyone truly did their part. And my final thank you is also to the people at Hydro, the people here who were out there in these temperatures, the people who responded, the people who, again, left their families, no idea when they were getting home, a situation that Hydro workers know all too well. So given that, a special thank you to them, and hopefully they get some rest now that the situation is resolved. In terms of the current status of the system, so at Bay d'Espoir, as I mentioned, 6 of the 7 units are back online. The situation is stable, the power watch is lifted, there is sufficient supply for the system for the foreseeable future. Of course, there is, we are still working on a number of items. That 7th unit at Bay d'Espoir needs to be fixed. What happened there is that during the frazzle ice situation, there's a gate that seals off that intake to ensure that the water is blocked from going into the generator. That 7th unit it needs to be repaired, and we expect it to be a week's work. Again, we need more divers in the water. Some divers remain on site to help with that plant, and that's going to be safely executed over the next week or so. At Holyrood, as we mentioned, we have 2 units offline, 1 unit offline, and 1 unit is at reduced capacity, producing 40 megawatts instead of the typical 170 that it usually provides. That unit is, again, as we mentioned, there is a technician, a control system specialist to work on that steam turbine. Flew in from mainland and is on site today. We're investigating the cause of that issue and should hope to resolve that soon. In terms of the rest of the system, I mean, Muskrat Falls, the Labrador Island Link are working well. They were part of the backbone of our system during this exercise. We reached a new record actually in terms of the power that was delivered over the Labrador Island Link. We're actually delivering 785 megawatts, higher than the 700 that was the previous limit that we had in place. So, again, a tremendous performance by those assets in this very difficult time. So with that said, of course, there's still a significant amount of winter ahead of us. We continue to monitor the system and these assets. We're working to repair them, issues as they resolve, and our dedicated hydro teams are there to respond every step of the way. With that said, thank you so much to everyone for their attention, and I'll happily take any questions.
How close did we get to having to actually go to that emergency situation?
We had sufficient reserves throughout. I guess the question was a matter of timing. To me, it was a bit of a beat the clock situation in that with the imports, we only had a few hours notice in terms in that they weren't firm. We can't guarantee the load was coming up in the maritime provinces. So it really was a question of not knowing until hours in advance And of course, with the Beta Spare situation, that was a dynamic situation as well. Not knowing when those units were coming back, how quickly they were coming back, that was a challenging situation. So, we were managed to stay several megawatts above. We need to have at least 70 megawatts above our load to ensure reliable operation, and so we never came below that 70 megawatt limit. If we go too close, we'll have frequency issues and those kinds of things that can impact clocks and those sorts of issues. So we never got less than 70 megawatts.
Can you tell me more about the work that was done out there by the crews, particularly the divers? Like, what exactly was involved?
Sure. So it was it was a manual job. So they would be down in the water and they had to find a way to break off the ice. So typically they would use hand tools and things like that, just trying to find ways to break this ice loose. And for the first couple of days, it was a kind of a very piecemeal affair, taking off little bits at a time. And I guess our assessment of the situation was that once the water got cold enough, which was awful for the divers, of course, but it got so cold to the point that the ice really hardened and then was able to come off in larger sheets. And that was the breakthrough for us, allowing us to quickly, relatively quickly with that breakthrough, we were able to uncover all 3 penstocks.
What's stopping this from happening next weekend if we got another cold snap with high winds?
Sure. Well, what we have now, the good news is that we now have an ice cover over our reservoir in Beta Spare, and that's typically what happens in the wintertime. Beta Spare Reservoir it's a pond essentially, and ponds freeze over unlike rivers. So with that ice cover, of course, you can't get this frazzle ice because the wind cannot stir up this body of water. That's why people say, well, sure, it's been cold before. Why haven't we seen this frazzle issue of Beta Spare before? So now that we have the ice cover, the wind can't get at it. We have this steady ice shield essentially that prevents frazzle ice from happening. So we are secure now. Of course, with climate change, it could be 15 degrees next week, in which case we'll have to monitor those situations as well. But of course, our long-term plan is to assess from a system standpoint, what kind of rakes and systems can we install? We do have those types of systems on some of our hydro plants that are on rivers because this is a more frequent occurrence on those situations. But in Beta Spare, this is a first, as we mentioned, so we'll have a system in place.
On those long-term plans, you have several applications before the PUB now in Beta Spare in its long-term future. That includes penstock refurbishment, but in light of what just happened and the fact that the ice cover could melt again, do you need to look at expanding that into ice management and monitoring? Is it likely to add on more kind of capital planning for Beta Spare?
Yes, well, absolutely. A mechanism to remove ice absolutely is something you do, but there's also operational solutions. What happened here is that we saw this frazzle ice situation and we continued to generate from the plant because it's such a large asset, you can't just switch it off instantly or it would have a dramatic system impact. So we can certainly put an operational plan together now to say, okay, if we do see frazzle ice developing, we could see it coming, offload the plant in the first place so that we wouldn't have such a large dynamic situation to manage. So instead of having to spend, or in the interim, before we could make a capital change to install a new system, operational precautions can be made to ensure it doesn't happen from that standpoint.
At its peak, how much did you import into this province?
We had over, I think it was 260 megawatts. So normally we have 160 megawatts going out typically is our commitment to Nova Scotia. So we were actually able to cancel that out entirely and bring back an additional 100 megawatts or so into the island. So there was over 200 megawatts at times we were able to import.
Do you have a sense of the cost for this, either in terms of you're paying pretty high spot prices for the power that you are importing along with all the other crew costs and things like that?
No, we don't have a sense of the quantification yet. We're still kind of in system management mode, ensuring the peaks and the system remain stable, but absolutely we're in the process of compiling that information. So the cost would relate to the additional fuel that was burned. Of course, you turn off a large hydro unit and you replace it with thermal generation, like we had to increase the production at our gas turbine facilities. Normally Holyrood operates at minimum load. We had it operating as high as we possibly could. So there's going to be an increased fuel cost with that, and there'll also be some cost for the imports as well. So we're tabulating that. I don't have the numbers just yet because that's still we're still getting things settled at this point.
That cost also includes compensation for the industrial customers who curtailed their consumption too, right?
Well, that's right. Well, we do have contracts in place, so we do pay an amount up front to ensure that's there. So most of those contracts are paid kind of. It's like an initial precaution is paid typically up front. So for Cornerbrook, for example, they provide 90 megawatts, and that's a long-term contract we have. We pay them at the start of winter so that they're available to us. and there's some payment as well for the energy that's transferred during these emergency times.
We saw some frustration from customers about the fact that, you know, they're busy getting their expensive winter bills. They're like, I'm paying top dollar for the power, and it's not even reliable. Now I'm being asked to go above that and turn things off or deal with, you know, less heat. Is there a lesson from hydro? Do you need to go back and really revisit how to provide reliable power, or what's the takeaway that customers should get from what you've learned from all of this?
No, we understand those frustrations, and they're very valid. It is a challenge to pay the very, light bills have never been, light and power bills have never been so expensive, absolutely. We appreciate that, and reliability should just be an automatic. Everyone feels that with the amount we're paying, we should not have power outages. But this was an extreme meteorological circumstance. This was a climate change thing that we had not seen in the past. So we understand, and we do everything we can to ensure our system is robust when it comes to expected things. We have extra capacity for emergencies, but sometimes you get dealt a very difficult hand, and such as what happened this past weekend, something unforeseen, something we've never seen before. And we'll respond to this. We'll make this right in terms of our system. We'll make sure that this won't, that we're prepared should this happen again. And we have experts who will make sure that's the case. And I guess that's our message, that we are continuing to involve. We understand and we appreciate the frustration, but we are committed to doing everything we can to deliver least cost, reliable power. That is our mandate.
On the question of prices, I understand you can't give specifics yet, but the spot market prices across North America seem quite high right now. This cold snap, everywhere it seems. Do you expect to kind of recover some of that by now being able to export into that spot market again, or is it still going to be a sort of significant piece of the books?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that is the beauty of Maritime Link is that, for example, that emergency energy that was sent to Nova Scotia yesterday, there's an arrangement with them such that they'll pay the rates that are comparable to our highest cost of electricity, because in emergencies like that, people run gas turbines. They're like jet engines that supply that are only turned on during peak and emergency times. So the cost of running those things is what's paid. So when we have hydro generation, we can sell that free hydropower to Nova Scotia, and they pay us those types of rates based on gas turbine fuel prices. That's when hydro can get revenue that helps with rate mitigation and those kinds of things.
Are you reaching out to like other provinces in Canada, or like even over in Labrador, that may have dealt with situations like this, for how to be better prepared for the rest of this winter and future winters?
No, absolutely. And we are part of industry groups. The Canadian Electricity Association has technical committees where experts can convene, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, looking at equipment issues or meteorological issues. Again, a major theme of those meetings is how do you deal with these extreme weather circumstances? When you have weather like you've never seen before, how do you prepare? I was at a meeting a few years ago, and the head of NERC, which is the governing electrical body in the States, kind of referred to the system as it's like a 5-alarm fire across the States. You have all of these data centers coming up. You have this extreme weather, which is now prominent. We can't call them rare events anymore. They're just extreme events. So all of these factors are straining our power system, and everyone, would love to have 100% reliable electricity. And of course, we want that too. But we have to be very conscious of every dollar we spend, because every dollar we spend has to be recovered through rates. So what's the right balance there, and how can we most effectively spend our money? That is absolutely our mission, and that is our full intention at Hydro.
You have 2 projects that are underway, a new combustion turbine at Holyrood and the additional generating unit at Beta Spare. If and when those come online, would that have given you enough extra capacity to have avoided the emergency situation this weekend, or how would that have affected things?
Those units would have put us in a better position. Those projects have not started yet. Those are applications that we filed with the Public Utilities Board. So we're waiting for approval on those. And our intention with those is that those projects would allow us to retire Holyrood. I guess as we mentioned earlier, is that right now we have one and a half Holyrood units, or 1 and a bit Holyrood units online, and through this crisis this past weekend. Again, it's our crews in Holyrood are fantastic, and if it weren't for them, we wouldn't get anything out of those units. It's a very difficult situation they're in, trying to nurse these old units along. Our intention and our hope is to retire these units and replace them with more reliable, newer units. So that would be 300 megawatts from those two units, as opposed to the 200 plus we just got there. So that would be significantly more reserves and would have gone a long way this past weekend, absolutely.
Along with the Unit 8 Beta Spare development that we just mentioned, there's also the Unit 7 life extension, which Hydro has said to do in 2028 as planned. They wanted approval by the end of last year, and that hasn't happened yet. So is that going to push one project into the other? Is that 2028 timeline for the Unit 7 expansion still reasonable?
So that's absolutely something we're monitoring, is that we do require significant work at Beta Spare. We want to replace penstocks there. The penstocks, we just replaced one this past year. Those 3 tubes that were blocked, of course, the straws we mentioned that brings the water from the reservoir down to the hydro units. We have the 3 that were freed. One of those is brand new, but the other 2 are original and were built with the plant in 1967, when welding was a relatively new thing. So those penstocks are old and need to be replaced. So our intention is to replace those over the next few years. And as you mentioned, Beta Spare 7, Unit 7 is our largest unit in that plant, 150 megawatts. That needs to be refurbished. That unit is older and has significant wear on it, and our intention is to ensure that it is reliable. So, and of course, we want to build Beta Spare 8. You can't do all of this at the same time. So we have to sequence that over a number of years. So, the timely approval of projects would be fantastic for us. A clear line of sight. I mean, we have a plan, and we'd love to just run and start executing this plan as quickly as we can.
I'm just going to step in here for a minute. I think we're rounding up, I guess, any of the questions that we have. I just wanted to take the opportunity also to answer a couple of things that we've seen over the past few days with respect to Maritime Link and Muskrat Falls and the Labrador Island Link. Want to assure people that they understand that we were flowing full power over the Labrador Island Link all throughout this weekend. It was essentially kind of like the backbone of what was helping us get through this scenario. This morning we actually hit, I think it was a peak on the Labrador Island Link at 785 megawatts. For people, when we start talking about megawatts, everybody's eyes glaze over, I understand that. But for comparison purposes, Holyrood, who a lot of us here, us townies, whatever, Holyrood's in our backyard, that's generally around 470 megawatts. So we were having, probably, 1.5 times that, we'll say, coming over the Labrador Island Link. Beta Spare gives us 600, so that's, even higher than Holyrood. It's kind of a hidden gem in our system. So many people now are learning about Beta Spare. It's 60 years old. It has been the backbone for us for many years. People just don't often see it. And so when it comes to what we were importing, again, you can think about that. It's like, 260 megawatts or what have you. It was probably about half of what we normally would get out of Beta Spare. So we had some really quick, numbers there for you, but we just want you to know about where the size and scope and context of some of those things are. But Muskrat Falls was absolutely online. The Labrador Island Link performed well. We relied on it heavily this weekend. And I think everybody has learned a lot more about our hydroelectric plant on the south coast that is a hidden gem for us. And finally, I just want to say thank you also. I know we put out a lot of thank yous to folks, to the people of the province. We saw this morning on some media that 70% to conservation efforts. This was, everybody pitched in like Newfoundlanders and Labradorians do and got through this together, and we were able to avoid some outages. So thank you so much for that. And to the media who are here and were following us all weekend, we could not have done this without you. So thank you very much for sharing the pictures and getting the word out all the time to customers. It was so important so they can make decisions during a very important exam week. So we really appreciate your assistance here as well, dropping everything coming in to assist us. Yep. Did you have a final question,
Rob,
Alex?
one more. Now that you've hit 785 on the Lil, is there more potential for going over that 700 threshold again and bringing in more power that way? Now that you've seen you can do it, and then maybe exporting more in turn?
Sure. Our intention is to do the 900 megawatt test in March. So our view is that without having done that test, there is some risk when operating above 700, which was the last test that we did. So we closely monitored the system during this past week, and we were comfortable enough to run it. But we really want to do that test before we allow full permission. So right now it's kind of an emergency measure that we took. But once we do that test in March, we should have full reign to go right to 900.
Was this kind of like a mini test then in a way?
It was. I mean, the test involves actually tripping a half of the link and watching the power transfer from one of the wires to the other wire. So fortunately, we never had that happen during this past peak. But that's our intention, is to run it right up to 900 megawatts, trip one half of the link, and watch the power transfer over. So that will happen in March.
Great. Well, thank you to everybody who's joined us on the Facebook Live. Thank you again to all of the customers and the public out there for your support. And have a great day. And thanks for the media for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming.